Okay, just doing a very quick video for record. So, years ago, okay, if I want to go right back through my life, I've always been involved in art and theatre, and that's even as a little child. So, when we still lived in Sydney, even as a kid, as a 4-year-old, I used to go to pantomimes and theatre and so forth in the city. Uncle Fred even took us once. Actually, probably more than once. I shouldn't just say once. I remember the Mother Goose one he took us all to. But always been involved with theatre. And then always loved the ballet. So always gone to shows and so forth. That's how I grew up. My nan always went to the theatre. Even when my mum moved in 1989, the first thing we did was actually go and see a show in the area. So we saw a local theatre production in the area that my mother moved to in April 1989. So because mum moved from Sydney with her second husband in 1989. But we've always been involved in art and theatre. My great uncle was involved in art and so forth. Anyway, I'm getting off the point. So I've actually still got my opera booklets from 2004. And I'm going to point out because in my opera booklets, so from the Sydney Opera House, there is Madame Butterfly marked to go and see in 2004. And see, I always used to go to the theatre with my nan as well. And in 2004, there was a lot of stuff going on because getting on to family politics, my nan's daughters were trying to force her to move from Sydney, and they ended up. So, yeah. So there was so even like back in 2003, I took the night off work and I said, "Nan, get dressed. We're going to Marrickville and we're going to go and see the Rat Pack." That's how my life was. We were always in the theatre. I don't know why people think something different to what my life is truly like, but they've made us this weird story up thinking that it revolved around horses when it didn't. That's a sport, and it was country when it wasn't. Anyway, and Traviata. So, excuse me. So I didn't actually get to see the Traviata in 2004, but I ended up going and seeing it years later in 2012, and I actually saw it on the harbour. But I've got theatre booklets back from when I was a kid. So I've actually still got all my theatre booklets. Not all of God, I hope I've got them all in storage. So I used to always collect my theatre booklets. But anyway, this was him with my art stuff. So I try to keep everything. It's really sad because when I moved to America, I had to throw out things that are meaningful to me. And that's not what accepting a green card or moving is about. It's not about throwing out what I enjoy in my life. So even if it's theatre stumps or stuff like that, it's priceless. Or for an example, I actually threw out all of my, which I had no choice coming back to Australia, which is really heartbreaking with what happened in America, because I kept every Christmas card and birthday card that my nan Lola, my big nan Maisie, or Mary, her name is, and my great uncle Fred had written me. So I actually kept every Christmas, birthday, and Easter card from the people that meant the world to me, and I had to leave that in America. So it was very sad because they're handwritten cards and they mean the world to me. So this whole thing where people are like, "Oh, hoarding," it's like, if it means something to someone, it's not hoarding. Hanging on to things, like even, that's life. That's who you are. That's your personality. Hanging on to theatre booklets, that's who you are as a person. No one should have to change who they are. This whole minimalist movement, which feels so Buddhist, and I'm going to knock people and say, well, fine, you have no personality if you have a stale, really minimalist life. That's not who I am. So I find things like this to be very meaningful. Like, I grabbed, even though I didn't get to see it, my opera booklet from the year 2004, where I've actually marked the pages of shows I want to go and see. Why I brought this up is because Carmen is on in April. I'm going to go and see it at the ballet, and I'm going to see. I've got a whole year to save up for the Nutcracker next November and December in Sydney, and I will definitely be going to see the Nutcracker at the Australian Ballet because I have always wanted to go and see that. So, and I will be getting a theatre booklet, and I'll be hanging on to it and putting it on my bookshelf, and every so often bringing it out when I want to, because that's who I am as a person. That's me. And I'm going to be screwed if I'm ever going to get people to change who I am because We're adapted in this weird small place living environment, which is, I don't know, it's stale, it's clinical, and it shows no personality of people. If you have to live in a small inside environment with no personality, that's not living. That's surviving. That's not life. It was heartbreaking enough. Okay, you know what else I threw up, which is going to really break my heart. Well, it's not really. It has broken my heart. Pretty much everything that had any meaning to my entire life has gone. All because I moved to America. I would rather have never had a green card to America. To be honest, having a green card to America is not as worth more as what I had as a life. I mean, it didn't have to have happened, but there was a lot of wrong information from Australia that got projected into the US. So I had to go, well, credibility is worth everything, because unless I can restore my credibility, I'm going to have nothing in life. And it was just devastating to get rid of it. And people go, oh, you got these losers that make up stories. Oh, these fucking weirdos that are just really destroying the world at the moment. Mental health is one of them. Oh, it must be so stressful for you to get rid of that. It's like, it's not stressful. You're talking about who someone is as a person. This is not right to do doing this to people. People shouldn't be living in small inside environments. People should be having their personality. When I walk into someone's place, you see their personality. If I walk into someone's place and it's like, oh, did you just decorate your place out of a magazine? That's not personal. It's like when I walk into my auntie Marianne's place, I don't find anything of her own personality in there. It's stale. So what's your... Oh, except, when she had a fetish of collecting cows. There's nothing. Like myself, anyone who knows me would know it's Victorian, or did have the Georgian, collecting Victorian little pieces, but majority of it's Art Deco Machine Age. People who know me know, but like 1920s. It's Art Deco Machine Age with Justin. You know this. You can see it. It's everywhere. It's a museum. There was small pieces of Art Deco moving into mid-century, but I'm not a lover of mid-century. I have a couple of mid-century pieces. I'm not a lover of it. It's more the mid-century pieces I had was like the one-off was a good Australian-made mid-century piece, but it was more Art Deco moving into mid-century because that crossover. Actually, a lot of Art Nouveau as well. So with me, so there's more Art Nouveau than Victorian. There's Art Nouveau going into Art Deco, then Art Deco Machine Age going into mid-century. This is what people should be doing. This is how you should be living your life. You walk into people's places and you can see them and their personality. It's, me, it was cluttered and great and had all my theatre stuff and my record. It was fabulous. It was enjoyable. It was relaxing. But idiots that spied in my life made up stories. Like, you're making up stories because you're projecting yourself, but you also are spied on my life. My place, when I was I was like, oh, it takes me a year to settle in. My mother wanted her own way. I want my mother in jail. And for good reason. She should be in jail, but, it's not going to happen. But she wanted her way. Oh, you should hurry up and settle in and unpack because you should be doing this with your life. You have no right to tell me what to be doing with my life. No one has any right to interfere in anyone else's life. I've just experienced this for 8 years, and these same entitled people that think they have a right to involve themselves in my life, which they don't, and there's something wrong with the legal system in Australia that they allow these people to get away with it. When if I walked up to these people and smacked them in the mouth for breaking laws into my life, I'm the one getting arrested. It's like, I shouldn't be getting arrested. You should be arresting them. They're the one breaking the law into my life. You're allowing it? There's a law here that they're breaking and you're just standing back doing nothing. As a government, you're standing back doing nothing. Arrest them. So for me, I've always taken a good year to settle in because I want to live in the space before I start putting things in there. Because I live in it and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to put that cabinet over there. And, it feels better to have this type. I wash the walls, I paint the walls, I wallpaper, I paint, I put up shelving, I build cabinets within cupboards. I'm like, okay, I want this here. I want to pull out rack here to put my, things on. I create a home and an environment, and it's me. It's like, it's who I am. Take that away, and it's like, well, it's just a clinical hamster in a hamster wheel. Look, and this can be sound as racist. I don't really care anymore. I don't care if people want to label me as racist because I'm not, but they did in the last 8 years. But go ahead. We're not meant to be living like rats, and we're not meant to be there's a certain type of nationality that lives a certain way. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't think they would even like living the way they had to in their country. Like at China. You're going to tell me that Chinese like that? Oh, and if they do, please, they're just suppressed by the communist government. Because I met plenty of Chinese in Australia that, they've come to Australia, like even like years ago. I was in Melbourne with Giovanni. I was buying a pair of shoes, and the lady was this lovely lady, and she's like, people are like, oh, when she was moving to Australia, you should move to Sydney and move to this Asian area. She says, why? I want to be away from where she come from in China. I don't want to be around that. So she moved to this fabulous area of Melbourne that was very sort of European. She loved it. And I was like, well, that's exactly right. Like if she was getting away from what it was in China. She wanted the big inside spaces, apartments and clothes. She didn't want that, no one wants to live in a box with no personality. But Sydney seems to want to build for, what people, that type of behaviour. Anyway, I'm not going to go on my tangent with that, but yeah. What means people's, life and what people might look at and go, oh, well, when they die, they're going to have all this to get rid of. It's like, so? They're not dead yet. And they should be enjoying their life and live what makes them happy. If they're happy to have all their belongings and clutter in their place and that makes them happy, but you see clutter, someone else says, rare antiques, and it makes them feel comfortable. What you don't have a right to do is involve yourself in somebody else's life. And not just for the legal aspects of it, because it is illegal, whether you people like it or not, but the immoral and the human right aspect of it. You don't have a right to involve yourself in someone's life, which is something that my mother and my mother's sisters have never, ever been taught the lesson that you are a control freak. You are a sociopath. You are a piece of shit narcissist. Controlling people. They're disgusting. I hate their nature. They're disgusting. And my twin sister Amanda has the same nature. She has the same horrible nature as my mother and my mother's sister. People that I had to put up with just to make my nan happy. And I vowed that when my nan was dead, I won't ever put up with him again. And that means Amanda, because Amanda is not a nice person. She isn't. She may think she's nice and she's always, oh, what have I done wrong? You can't look at yourself at who you are. And I just proved that in the last 8 years. You don't look at yourself at who you truly are. You point the finger. Like, you always blame men. They blame men for everything. It's like, seriously? You obviously have issues. I live my life and then, I'm going to go on a tangent here, but I won't because they're not worth it. And they're not. They're not nice women to be around. Which is why when my nan's, dead, I don't have anything to do with them. Because they're not nice to be around. They're not enjoyable. They're just horrible people. And yes, my twin sister is exactly the same. Whether she wants to admit it or not, she can look at herself and say, oh, well, maybe I really need to fix myself. Yeah, maybe I am the problem. So if I don't listen to my brother when he's trying to explain something to me, maybe I'm the problem. If I'm always, pointing fingers and, oh, well, Justin's, you've got this because of this. It's like, no, Amanda, you have an issue with how you're interpreting situations. You're interpreting based on your own projection. You have an issue. And you need to fix your issue. So there's obviously a reason why I've come back to Australia and I've only come back to take things further legally. I made it very clear when I was moving from America back to Australia that there was no one in Australia I wanted anything to do with. I'm only coming back because you caused trouble for me in America. No one needs to speak for me. I don't believe in this Buddhist Tibetan monk bullshit behaviour of minimalism and crap and having no personality. I find those people to be freaks. I don't believe in that type of lifestyle or minimalism and or other crap. I find people like that are just boring, plain Jane people with no personality. I have personality. I enjoy my life and what I had around me. The same as, I'm sure other people do. It's nice when you walk into someone's place and you can see their personality. And believe me, when you used to walk into my place, everybody could see my personality. My life. Whether it was theatre booklets laying around old stumps from shows I've been to, even as a teenager. When I went and saw the Secret Garden, which was at the so God, I'm going back to, was it 1995, the Secret Garden at in Haymarket, or even before that. Christ, how many shows I've seen before that? Like growing up, and I've always kept a theatre. So who cares? I buy a theatre, but even where was I once with my nan, and must have been after I was with Giovanni, because we went to a show, and Nan's like, you're not, because Giovanni's very minimalist, which I'm not. Nan's like, you're not buying a theatre book. That's not like you to not buy a theatre book. I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. And that was only because Giovanni didn't want me to buy one. So I didn't buy a theatre book. She says, but you always buy a theatre book. Like, you always buy the production book. And I do. She says, go and get one. I said, yeah, I'll buy it. I said, no, it's all right, because Giovanni doesn't like clutter like I love clutter. It's like, no. And then it's like, but it's not like you to not have that. And that's true. My name was so alive. She said, it's not like you don't have that. Like, you like that. You enjoy that. You go to the theatre, you buy the booklet, you reflect on it when you get home, you go through it. That's who you are as a person. So who cares if it sits in a bookshelf? Who cares if it's cluttering up the bench? That's who you are. Who cares? And that's exactly right. Who fucking cares? It's my life. It doesn't bother me, so it doesn't bother me. And that's really that fucking simple. It doesn't bother me, so I'm the only person that matters within my life. If I've got a theatre booklet and it's sitting there, like I've got my theatre booklet there from 2004, who cares? It's my life. It's not hurting anyone else. If I enjoy it, I enjoy it. And I remember that very clear. I'm trying to think what show it was now. It might have been when we went to, how many shows did we see that time? That night we went and saw, what's his name? Jimmy Barnes' son at the State Theatre. Might have been that, or could have been one of the other shows. God, the amount of shows I've seen in the theatre. And I remember I was every then. She goes, but you always buy a theatre booklet. It's true. I always buy a theatre booklet. And I enjoy it. And I have since a kid with all my theatre booklets. So why should I change my life because someone I'm around wants minimalist and modern and stale and clinical? That's not who I am.